and I'm in wise woman, so I never know quite when she's coming, as in wise woman, as in perimenopausal. Um, so yeah, so here I am. So do excuse if I can't find my words, or if I just suddenly fall off to sleep. Give me a nudge. Say, oi, back. So yeah, I'll really try. So anyway, here I am. So yeah, so my name was originally Vanessa, but on my 50th birthday, I decided to change my name to Willow because wanted to I wanted to name myself. I've been carrying my name Vanessa, which I love, but it was a name that my mother had given me, and everyone knew me as Vanessa. And I'd been sitting with the name Willow for probably about 3 years. I'd started my master's degree in women's spirituality in San Francisco. So if you're ever keen to do a master's in women's spirituality, go there because it's great. So yeah, so I remember an elder sitting with us, I think my first time going, and she was like, choose yourself a name, She said, a name that really holds you and just embraces everything that you are. She said, and you don't even have to change it in the passport, she just have people know you by that name. She said, it helps you step into more of, So it was like, that planted a seed, and then I was, over the years, kind of thinking, well, which one? And so Willow does it for me. And I think it does come from the Pocahontas. Grandmother Willow. So yeah, and I used to have a willow at the bottom of my garden that I used to just play in all the whole time. And then the willow's a sacred tree that her branches touch the ground, and so there's this circular. And also the willow is very much symbolic of women's spirituality and the sacred feminine, and so it kind of works. So that's the one, that's my name. But I'm not used to it, so if you call me Willow and I don't answer, call me Vanessa. So yeah, so that's that. So yeah, I have a company in Dubai, Woman Space. We make and sell cloth menstrual pads. Now, 7 years ago, I had terrible endometriosis. I've been suffering with my periods since I was a teenager, and the doctors, before giving my birth to my babies, was like, as soon as you have a baby, I'll sort it out. Well, 4 babies later, and that wasn't to get my periods sorted out. I thought I'd love children. I did. I still had the pain. In fact, it almost felt worse. And so I went down to the doctor, the gynecologist, and she was like, look, your womb is really angry. She's really swollen. And what we can do is, I suggest you go on the pill, take some progesterone, or she said, we'll give you the Mirena coil. She said, and then after 6 months, she said, we'll pretty much schedule you in for a hysterectomy. And I was like, oh. Okay, what's the alternative? And she was like, well, that's what I offer. And I was like, yeah, but I can't take the pill, because when I take the pill, I feel like I can do crazy things. Like I feel like I can fly. Yeah, no, I really do. I sort of stand at windows when I was taking the pill, different times. So yeah, so it's like no pills for me. And I remember going home to my husband. Actually, the story is, when she said hysterectomy or a Mirena coil, the Mirena coil she can put in you, but then if you don't agree with it and anything's going on, then she can't take it out for 6 months. And I was like, that's craziness. I don't want that. And then the progesterone, I said, what are the side effects? And she said, well, you might get a bit fat, or you might get spotty, or you might get quite aggressive. I was like, okay. So I took this information back to my husband, and I said, right, got some options here. Partial hysterectomy, or I can go on the progesterone pill or the Mirena coil. So I told him the side effects. He was like, oh, have the hysterectomy. And at that point, that really triggered me, because I was just like, fucking bastard. This has given me 4 kids, How dare you suggest they take my womb away? But in the doctors, when she had said that to me, I'd have done it there and then. But thankfully, my husband triggered this something in me. And so I started to look for alternative ways of dealing with this issue. And the biggest thing that I found was that it kind of was like a real bombshell, was, well, do you love your period? And it was like, well, no, I fucking hate it. And does it cause you lots of pain? Yes. I mean, it caused me horrendous pain. I vomit. I have diarrhea. I'm nasty. I get loads of acne. You know, my hair goes greasy. It was just a mess. You know, and it would be the week before my period. It's just best not to be near me. And then the week of my period, just, yeah, again, just. And then I think, yeah, so then the week of maiden, the first week after my period, I was all right. In the ovulation period, all right, but a bit swollen, I think, sometimes when I was ovulating. So, you know, generally, just. So this article that I read, and I wish I could remember which one, but I mean, I did read hundreds, was that I needed to start to love my period. And I thought, well, what have I got to lose? Let's give it a go, and let's fake it until I make it. So I got online, and I started to sort of like, I think I put, how do I love my period?
That's the question.
And so then sort of like cloth pads came up, and I was like, oh god, that's tree hugging sort of stuff, you know. I'll do that. And pushed that aside, but then yeah, eventually it was like, okay, cloth pads, and then I was looking at them, I was like, oh gosh, they're really pretty, and then it was like, oh, I could order some. Oh. And then it was like trying to decide what length, and so I was measuring myself, thinking, you know, and I you just don't know, and so I ordered some, but it felt so extravagant to order these pads online, and then they were going to sort of chug their way over to the Middle East, and you know, but the waiting process of those pads to arrive was like, are we going to do it? Are we going to do it? And when they did arrive, I was like, oh, my period, you know, and I wanted to test it out, and I just remember the first time I wore them, it was just like, oh my god, they're so soft, and you know, and they don't make a noise when you walk.
And they don't smell.
And they don't smell. And they don't make, yeah, just, and that, you know, sometimes you give yourself a little wax. If you get the
yeah, the thing on.
Yeah. Ow!
No stickiness there. And so it was just this like, oh my god, these are amazing. And then what happened was that I think probably by about the third cycle after getting the pads, I didn't really have much pain, which was like, hang on, this can't be just it, you know, I need to have done more massages and Arvigo moving of wombs and, you know, all of this stuff. I needed to do that before I was going to be cured. But actually, it was just that loving my period, I believe. And the pad assisted me to love my period. Because it was also, you know, like the whole idea of washing the pad. You know, you kind of got it covered in blood, and normally what you would do with your other pads or the tampons is you'd like, you know, and you might even get a little plastic bag, a scented plastic bag, because they stink. But then you think you stink, but actually you don't. It's the pad that stinks because it's full of chemicals and plastic. So yeah, you'd wrap it in plastic and then you put it in the bin, and so your blood became rubbish, you know, and you're throwing it away. And what I was doing with the pads was I was rinsing them out, and like, you know, I was like, whoa, that's beautiful colour. You know, this was like 35, 40 years of, well, actually no, that's not right, because I wasn't bleeding when I was 5. But you know, you could do the math. So it was a long time of not really seeing my blood. And suddenly here I was sort of washing it out of the pad. And then I'd read that you can use that water to water the plants. So I was like, oh yeah, okay, so sort of scooping it up into, you know, and felt kind of quite witchy. You know, and then sort of sneaking out, sort of down the stairs so that no one else could see my jar of blood, because they want to freak the family out, and then sort of pouring it on. And that was at the beginning. Now I'm like, who's coming out to do the ritual with me? Huh?
They are not freaking out.
Not now, no. I mean, I've got two big sons. I've got a 25-year-old and a 21-year-old. So when this all started, I think my 21-year-old was sort of in that awkward teenage space. And he came home, he was like, Mum, you used to be so cool. he said, I used to be so proud of you. He said, now you moved into this business. He said, I just don't get it. And whilst he was doing that, he was eating a tomato. And I looked at him and I went, you enjoying that tomato? And he was like, yeah. I was like, I said, because I watered the garden with my blood.
Oh.
And he went, but I was like, but I don't water the tomatoes. You're okay. But it was like I sat with him and I said, look, so what is this about blood? I said, is it the pads? Is it the blood? What is it? And he's just, he said, it just seems all so, ugh. Well, I don't know what exactly transitioned for him, but he then started bringing girls home from college and was getting them out. He said, oh, my mum's got this brilliant cat one, and she's got this one, and I think you should have this. So he was like one of my main salesmen for teenage girls. So yeah, and he's even sold some in England. I mean, he's in uni now, and yeah, and he's like, so I'm so proud of you. This is. So he transitioned too. But I think what it does is that it's the connection. It was, for me, it was the connection to my blood. It was my connection that my blood was not rubbish anymore. It was actually something that I could give to the plants and to my garden. And okay, I don't do that all the time because you can't, you're out in the shops or something. It's just something, realizing that it's not gone off. Because I remember my mum used to say, well, your period's like a piece of gone off steak.
Oh.
And you've seen a piece of gone off steak in the fridge, it's gone past its sell by date, and that's what you've got to do, you've got to get rid of it. Bless her, that's what she was obviously told by her mother. But actually it's not a gone off piece of steak, because if the egg had been ovulated, it would still be there for 9 months, to grow the baby. And so when it's coming out of you, it's just that the egg's not there. It's just coming out, and it smells really fresh. Yeah, no, I won't say that. So it's not rubbish. It's really valuable stuff. That's on that level, but then on the spiritual level, it connects you to how powerful you are. We are the carriers of wombs, and our wombs are the carriers of the future. Whether or not you're going to birth a baby from this womb, or whether you're going to be birthing companies or ideas or something, it's usually for the forward momentum of life. So whether you're birthing a baby or you're birthing some item of clothing or something, it's to clothe people so that they can move forward in life in happier space, or and so all of this comes from this womb space. And so we've been trained to be very heady people, or even heart people. We think a lot and we feel a lot, but do we know a lot? And so it's this disconnection that's happened over the hundreds of years for women, disconnecting from our wisdom. And so the whole idea of reconnecting, yes, we listen to our head and we feel with our heart, but we know from down here. And to know is you can't know when you're busy. You can't know when you're talking loads and you're busy and you're doing and juggling. The only time you can know is when you sink into your wisdom, you sink into your womb space. Generally, like, in yoga or meditation, we tend to sit into this root chakra, we sink in, and that's when you have your moments with your wisdom. And she's not going to be shouting at you, that's the head voice. And it's not the one that makes you cry, because that's your heart voice. It's the whisper. And sometimes she's not even words, she's just a feeling. And so I believe for us as women growing and developing and expanding into our woman space, is we need to connect with our blood. We need to connect with our wombs, because patriarchy realized all the way back then the only way we're going to get the women out of the center, and that's where we used to be. We used to be at the center because we connected with the moon, and our cycles connected with the moon, and the woman's cycle, they say, I mean, scholarly thought believes that the first clocks were based on the women's cycle. Makes sense, you know, because we have that rhythm. And, you know, it's, am I losing my thread here? I was on a roll there, wasn't I? What was I saying? Oh, connection. Patriarchy. Oh,
Women
yeah.
in the
Good
center.
Good old patriarchy. Yeah. Throwing me off there. So patriarchy wanted to throw me off and not tell you about the fact that we were in the center, and the only way to move us from the center was to disconnect us from our power. And the disconnection from our power, I believe, and a lot of other people believe, is that if you disconnect a woman from her blood, you disconnect the woman from her power, and you disconnect her from her community, her sisters. Like a visual, yeah. She wanted me to ground her. Yeah,
To ground you.
Ground you, connect, woman.
It's okay.
It's disconnecting us from that source of our power was enabled patriarchy to take its stronghold. And so now, as we're moving closer to something else, which is not patriarchy, and there's not necessarily a name for it yet, but you know, there's this place of balance where the patriarchy isn't sort of like, it's patriarchy, let me just say, is not me man bashing, it's me system bashing. So it's, I love men, not all of them, but some of them are alright. And I do like my boys, my kids. So I'm talking about system. The system has to break very soon, because obviously the way the world is moving and the damage to the earth that is happening with
They dump waste behind on the secretary, usually while we're talking about this stuff.
yeah.
And it's funny that they're not dumping today, because you can usually hear it.
But you know, you've got Trump, bless him. You've got Brexit. You've got straws up turtles' noses. You've got the rubbish in the waters.
You've got the president of Brazil blaming the Amazon fires on NGOs.
Yeah. So just if we could, you know, just remember what's going on out there. What does it need? It needs the feminine to rise, and the feminine doesn't need to rise to take over, because then it becomes too masculine. All we need is the feminine to rise in both women and men. And then we've become more nurturing, we become more caring for the environment, for each other, for circles, for blood, for each other, you know? It's that sense, that feminine rising. And so all of that combined, for me, with me connecting to my blood, and at the same time I started my master's, so then I was talking to witches in San Francisco, I was talking to elders, indigenous society elders, and listening about blood and, you know, pre-patriarchy, pre-civilization, and the goddess ruling, you know, not ruling, but she was doing whatever she was doing in a matrilineal kind of way of being rather than a ruling. It feels like the planet is cooling, and Mother Earth is cooling, and the goddess, and whoever you would call that energy, or whatever you would call that energy, is calling us to move into a new space. And so hence why there's a lot of women sitting in circle here in Bali, and Bali being such a feminine, nurturing, wonderful space. The work is happening, so I feel like wonderful, but what I'm finding is that there isn't enough people realizing that the connection needs to go as low and as deep as your blood. Because I speak to a lot of yogis, and they go, well, I've done the work, and I'm doing the work, and I'm eating, and I'm vegan, and I'm da 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 da. And then, you know, some of them go, I didn't think about the blood. You know, that's I just stuff a tampon in, or I stuff a cup in, and I'd rather not think about it. You know, I don't. And so what's happened with some of them that I've managed to kind of pull in, and I said, well, what about your flow? What about that beautiful flow of blood that happens? And they go, oh, I can't stand it. You know, you're sort of doing a wonderful stretch, and suddenly you go, you don't want to, because suddenly you go, oh my God, I'm leaking. So, I mean, I used to be, I was a professional dancer when I was 20 to 30. And yeah, I stuffed tampons up there, and if it was really heavy, I would wear a pad. But if I was performing or teaching, there's no way I'd wear a pad because I was worried somebody's going to see it. So yeah, I was a big supporter of tampons and Tampax. Actually, Tampax was I didn't want to stick my finger up there and get it all covered in blood. I wanted to just do the cardboard. Do the cardboard. So yeah, so it's understanding that we have a cycle and what is the point of our blood. Now, if we had uterus up here, then I'd get it. We weren't supposed to flow down. But the thing is, it happens to be right down here. And flowing down is how we were made. And so why are we trying to plug it up? Why aren't we letting it flow? And when we do flow, is that not a message saying, slow down? Should you be doing that inversion? Or maybe don't wear white trousers today. Or just something. Or maybe just, you know, take a fucking day off. Relax, chill. Because the other thing is when you are in that bleeding time, you are more intuitive. When you allow yourself to slow down, when you go into, I don't know if you've all heard of the red tent, but red tent, is it ringing any bells? Anyone not know the red tent? Yeah, okay. Red tent, we all used to, before we lived under electric lights and the lot, and we lived in tribes, we would all go to bleed together because we would all bleed in sync with the moon.
And
So
at the same time.
at the same time. Yeah, so with the dark moon, we would bleed. And so if you can imagine how magical really that would be for all of the villagers, all of the tribes, because the men would probably be like, these women, you know, it's coming up for the dark moon, that they're getting angry with me a little bit because they got PMT, yeah. So they're getting a bit sort of, you know, possibly not quite so attractive. And then they all start bleeding when it goes dark. So then they all go into this space. And when you get a load of women together, there's oxytocin, natural oxytocin with women. And, you know, we all put, you know, the wrongs to right and we all sit and chat, bleeding, you know, it's great. And, you know, and the ones that don't bleed anymore, they bring us our food. The men are around the edges, they're supporting, making sure there's no wild animals coming in to, you know, so they're doing their job, they're protecting us. And we're all sitting having a jolly for about 3 or 4 days. And then when we come out, the men are just like, whoa, they look different. And they're happier, they're less stressed, you know. When they went in, they were like this. And when they came out, they're like, and then, you know, give them that week and they're all kind of playful. And then, you know, moving into the middle of the month, suddenly they're kind of like, hey. And they're like, whoa, and the full moon and everything's like raw. And so, yeah, and then they go,
I like it.
you get what I mean? So, you know, that was me kind of telling you about the red tent, I think. The red tent
That
was
was
just...
much more than a red
There's
tent.
much more than that. That was like, you got the whole tribal relationship in one.
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to bring back. The red tent was a space. There's menstrual huts, there's moon lodges, there's red tents, a space where women come together to bleed. Now, some people believe or thought wrongly, absolutely wrongly, was that they went there because they were dirty and disgusting and they needed to stay away from the rest
Where
of the
did this
tribe.
come from? Archaeological interpretation?
Which one?
The dirty and
The dirty.
disgusting.
Patriarchy kind of around that time, because and I think you know, in India, you've got the girls going and they have to sit outside.
Separately.
Yeah, hasn't always been the case that it was because they're disgusting. That's a myth. And the thing is, the problem is that it's actually believed, you know, and some of us believe it.
In Christianity, you cannot go into a church because you're
Yeah,
dirty.
yeah. But dirty, exactly. In Islam, you cannot touch the Quran because you're unclean. Hindu, you're not allowed to go into the temple. But if we take it back and we just kind of logically or even wisdomly feel into, well, why would that be the case? If we took away the disgustingness of it, is there a logical reason why you couldn't go into the temple when you're bleeding? Could it be because you were dripping? If you were in a tent and you're all sitting there together, could it be that it was the safest place for us all to congregate so that the men could keep the animals away from us because, you know, it's dark and they can smell the blood? Wouldn't it be better to keep our women safe? And also, like in the indigenous tribes, they believe that a woman is so powerful when she bleeds that she mustn't meet a warrior or a shaman prior to like them going out or the shaman doing his work, because the woman in her blood time is more powerful. So, you know, all of this information you kind of start to pull in and you just go, what have I been missing out on? You know, so okay, so I get serious amounts of pain. Well, could this be the power of our blood and that we're misinterpreting that this pain? How can we shift this around? What's my body saying when she's giving me pain? What's my body saying when she's giving me a great big clot? What is she saying when I'm premenstrual as fuck? What, you know, or what is it if I'm starting to get bloated when I'm ovulating? So all of these messages, I really believe is the wisdom, and we can know. We don't need to go to a doctor because a doctor knows us for 20 minutes. We've known ourselves all our lives, and we know our cycles. I mean, some of us don't really know our cycles because we've ignored them. We've taken Panadol or whatever you call it, the Tylenol painkillers, and we've stuffed a tampon up, and we just, you know, because I don't want my period. But once you start to go, okay, you know what? I think I might just get to know my period a little bit. See if this woman, this mad woman, is speaking any truth here. Then, you know, you can start to listen and play and feel the rhythm of your cycle. And I believe you had spoke about the archetypes.
Yeah, not very briefly, and you know, quite a few people have done a little bit of reading as well. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So I mean, the archetypes. I believe there's like a rhythm to your cycle, and they've got different names. Some people call them the seasons: the spring, summer, autumn, winter. I call them the maiden, the mother, the wise woman, the crone. And I believe that when we start our period, we meet our wisdom, and when we're in our mothering space in the summertime, we practice our wisdom, and then when we arrive at wise woman, we become our wisdom. And that's not me. I didn't make that up, unfortunately. That's a prophecy. That's a Native American saying, so it was taken. But anyway, there you go. But I do strongly believe that that's the case. So maiden is the time when you've finished your bleeding. You can still be spotting, but it's usually like, I mean, how long are we bleeding for? 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 9 days? 5?
3 to 5.
3? Yeah, so no one longer than 5? Okay, so let's say day 5 is definitely maiden time. For the 3s, yeah. How can you get it all out in 3 days?
Just happened.
But then when I've done the research, they did say that we used to bleed a lot less back in the day.
When we were more attuned with it.
Yeah, when we would bleed into the ground,
Yeah.
they would spend the 3 days of the dark moon and then come out as the moon started. So, you know, who's to say it's the food that we're eating or the pads or the tampons or whatever.
This connection from the earth.
Yeah.
I
So,
think because when I started grounding myself more, it actually.
mhm.
So I think it's really earth connection.
Yeah.
What you're saying about being on the ground and breathing into the earth.
Yeah. Yeah, because I used to be a 7-dayer, and now I'm more like a 5-dayer. But I don't know whether that's my perimenopause or because I'm grounding them. I like to think that it's I'm grounding.
I also went down from 5 to 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think 3 is
Do you check amount?
The natural.
Like from 5 days, 3 days, is this amount is more or less? Check it. Check it off.
So yeah, so if we say let's say day 4. Day 4 to day 11 is maiden time or springtime. It's if you've rested during your bleeding time. This is if you've rested during that time. You will possibly, hopefully, naturally move into your maiden, your springtime, where you're kind of, you know, feeling good. You know, things are looking bright. I'm busy. I can organise, and I've got great ideas. Gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I think that I met you a few days ago. She was so in her maiden. It was like chill, wasn't it?
Agenda. 2020.
Yeah.
Take over the world.
Yeah. So it was so that's maiden, and then day 12, 13 is when you move into your mothering space. So it's around when your egg comes out and goes, oh, come fertilise me. And so what happens then is all those wonderful hormones start to kind of, you know, get you looking more attractive. Suddenly, you know, all your clothes fit. And well, some of them actually. Not all of them.
All men are super attractive.
Huh?
All men become so attractive.
Yeah.
All of
And
them.
2 days later, you think, oh my god.
Did I do?
Yeah, but if you notice,
Pole dance, yeah.
if you notice
Grab
when
lots of
you're,
money.
say, in a supermarket, people are nicer to you during that time of the month. You know, you're walking in a shopping mall. Notice how many heads turn.
Yeah. And no one can say no to you. Whatever you ask, you'll get.
Yeah.
I love it.
So if you want a pay rise, do it then.
When you're ovulating.
Yeah.
When you're ovulating, if you want to, you know, you go for a job interview, try and work it into that space. I mean, I can remind me afterwards to tell you if you do have a job interview and you're in Wise Woman, what to do. Okay, because there are ways of, yeah, because you don't want to just scare them. So you so yeah, so try and
A workshop on sickness.
and be like,
20 women doing that. So I was going to invite that woman in, but I thought, no, that's going to be too much. Just call her.
so yeah, so okay, so that's the mothering thing, and with the mothering phase, you'll find that you can juggle 6 balls whilst balancing a child on your hip, whilst cooking a meal, whilst organising, you know, future stuff. You can be talking to the lawyer, and you can be looking damn sexy whilst you're doing it, and your husband's going, can we go upstairs please? You know, you can be doing all of that, or even not your husband. You can be doing all of that, and you manage it all, and you're smiling, yeah? Now come day 22, 23, so say day 22, you're looking in the mirror, and you're like, oh, that looks so good, and oh, this looks, and off you go, yeah? Day 23, you haven't eaten anything different, you haven't done anything different, but you look in the same mirror, same time of the day, and you go, oh, fuck, I'm fat. Yeah? It's the hormone shit. We all know, we've all done it. Yeah? So it's this hormone
Clothes
shift,
doesn't
and
fit
suddenly you've changed. Now, what happens is if we don't know it and we just kind of go, oh, it will bring you down, obviously. What I tend to do is just don't look in the mirror. And oh, day 20, there's that lot of things.
Cover the mirrors.
Covered.
Gone until Maiden.
Huh?
The mirrors are gone until Maiden.
Yes. Until you've done some practice, because then you can, you know, after you've been doing this a while, you can look in the mirror and go, oh, I look wise. And oh, this extra little bit of weight suits me. Yeah, but that takes some training. So yeah, so where are we at? We're into wise women. So yes, the problems arise in wise women when we pretend to continue to be mother or maiden. If we are to look in the mirror and we see, oh God, gonna get down the gym. That's what I'm doing. Down the gym now.
That's the normal
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're
normal reaction
So you're
of a normal person.
trying to go back to maiden. You're trying to go pre-pregnancy. You're trying to go pre-mothering. You're trying to go back there. Some women need Botox. Oh, these need to. Oh yes. I need an appointment. You know, so it's all of this. It's that effort to suddenly go back. Whereas in Wise Woman, what she is saying to you, or what she's trying to get you to bloody well hear, is feel the power that you are now. And you've got the experience of maiden, you've got the experience of mother. You're powerful, you know. There's not many women, I mean, it's a privilege to arrive at this age. Or this time in your month, so I'm getting a bit confused with, parallel. So we are maiden, mother, wise woman and crone in our life cycle, and we also meet these every month. Okay, so I'm kind of jumping in and out, so I hope I'm not losing anyone.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Put your hands up if I am. And I'm just trying to pedal backwards. Anyway, so we're in wise woman. So let's talk about the wise woman that the premenstrual part before I speak about the wise woman as in this person. Yes, perimenopausal woman. Okay, so in our period, in our cycle, if we continue to try and juggle all the balls and cook the food and do everything and trying to look so gorgeous, we're going to either end up dropping stuff, crying, binging. It's like, oh, I'm going to binge. All of that sort of stuff happens in that wise woman. Or we're going to roar. We're just going to go, ah, kids, shut up! No! Ah! Yeah?
Kill.
Yes. So the thing is, you don't really get that feeling in the mothering space, and you don't get that feeling in the maiden space. But suddenly you get it in the wise woman space. So all we need to do is realise that our wise woman is saying, let's be wise about this. Nobody juggles 6 balls and cooks and looks sexy and looks. Stop it. That's just silliness. Let's just do one thing at a time. And that's all you need to do. And so that just means that if you're going to do all of that, you still can manage it all, and you'll manage it so much better, but you're just going to do one thing. Or you're actually going to ask somebody else to do it for you. You know, you're going to lean out and go, you know, I'm struggling a little bit here, can you help me? Or, you know, that's where the community comes in. So, you know, you've got these friends, because we've also been kind of wrongly told that we are super women. I mean, there's medals out there, isn't there? For the
And models.
models and medals.
Yep.
Medals,
Yeah.
You get medals for models.
Yeah, but actually we never get the bloody medal, do we? You know, I tried being a super mum and no one gave me a medal. And it's just not, it's not fair. But I mean, mummy makeovers, all of this sort of stuff, it's just, it's trying to be a perfect somebody. And you mustn't say that you're struggling. You mustn't say that anything is wrong. So this whole period of PMT, we've kind of internalized, and we feel quite ashamed of it. And we can make jokes of it, like on Instagram, you can have like, you know, can't even think of a joke right now because they really annoy me. But you know, don't be around how many premenstrual women does it take to change a light bulb? It's like, 1! There you go. That was my one joke. So it's because we're not listening to our body at that time. And as soon as you do start to listen to her and you do start to slow down and you become wise in your choices, then your premenstrual problems, issues, symptoms will start to evaporate. And then obviously crone, it's quite obvious when you move into your crone or your winter because you bleed. Now, it could be that a lot of people get pains when they bleed. Now, what could the pain be saying? The pain could be saying, you need a hot water bottle, darling, to put on your tummy. You need a lovely hot cup of tea. And you need to sit on the sofa and have a movie fest. Or you need to just stay in bed for an extra hour. Or how about you phone up work and say, can I come in later? I'm just, I'm not feeling too good. Or what about if during your mothering phase, or even your maiden, but you think ahead, you cook up some food and you put it in the freezer, okay? So you've got it all ready. Or you get takeout. You don't have to be super mom, super woman, and be cooking up these feasts when you're bleeding. It's just, I'm bleeding. It takes a lot to bleed, and I believe that once we slow down and we go into our little red tent, and we connect and we ground, then we bleed, and our bleeding just allows us to be. And they say that when we're in our bleeding time and when we're Crohn's, it's when we are the most intuitive. So I do recommend that you keep a journal with your dreams, and see what's going on in your dreams during that time, and see what comes up. Maybe, what I like to do is when I've got my period, and like when I stand up and suddenly I get a glug, I try and go, oh, I wonder what I just let go of. What argument or something through the month has just come out, and yeah. Or it's a reminder for me to sit down or to go to the toilet. So it's just speaking and listening to this beautiful blood that happens pretty much every month, and is a constant reminder and a conversation with us to listen and to honour our sacredness. Is that making sense? Yeah. So then if we think about us in our life cycle, so maiden, mother, wise woman and crone, yes, there are distinct times when we know that we're a maiden, and oh yes, we know we're a mother because suddenly, oh, I've got a baby. But say for example you don't have a baby. When do you transition from maiden to mother? And then how do you know? Because it's like I've still got young kids, but I could be wise woman because I'm over 50 and I feel quite wise sometimes. And then when do you become wise woman? When do you become the crone? Now I believe that we're all of it most of the time. Yeah. I believe that when we're living more in a community and we're living more in a sisterhood, then the maidens and the mothers and the wise women and the crone, we can all support each other so that the mothers can be maiden. If some of the maidens were assisting with the mothers to give them a little bit of time off, and the wise women can be giving some wisdom to the mothers so they don't have to kind of try and work it all out by themselves because the wise women have already done it. And even in companies and assisting us, each other in our businesses, why are we not doing that more? Why are we not in this collaborative kind of space of being the maiden, the wise woman, the mother in that bit, and the crone, and when we connect with all of those parts of us, which we all are, we are all crones, we're all wise women, then it allows us to give up this fear of aging. It allows us to kind of go, God, I'm a crone anyway, so there's no fear of becoming the crone because I know her every month, and then we're more in reverence of each of us in our space, and we've got so much value to add. Does that make sense? Because I said I didn't know how to say it. Okay. Then the other one thing that I do want to say, I probably want to say more, but anyway, the circle. I wish I had a picture of it. Do you have it?
Yeah. Here's yours, and then someone else's.
All right. So everyone could take a screenshot of this.
We can
Yeah.
pass it around
Yeah.
probably.
Okay. So what I did was I tried to write down all of what I just said and draw it. And so up the top. No, wait a minute. This is, so Maiden. Maiden, I have her starting in the east. Now everything starts in the east. They starts in the east. Yeah. So it's all happening in the east, and the air is in the east. I haven't really mentioned that bit, so maybe I won't right now. Why did I bring this? Okay, this side of the circle, you've got Maiden and Mother. Okay, so on this side, this is the very kind of masculine doing side of our cycle. And then as we move over into Wise Woman and Crone, we move into the feminine being side of our cycle. Now, what I kind of had a revelation when I was teaching my last workshop was that, and I hadn't realised this before, was that all of them are forward, apart from Wise Woman. Wise Woman is back. So all of these are about this forward momentum in life. And when you get to Wise Woman, she's not so much about the forward momentum. She's more about clearing up the shit. And I know that because that's where I am in my life. I'm clearing out my cupboards. I'm clearing out my relationships. I'm clearing out everything and anything. So really sorry. If you know me well, I'll probably tell you what I think of you at some point.
I'm quite sensitive, just need to let you know I'm quite a sensitive soul, so.
I'll pick the moments. I won't talk to you, Maiden.
I can't go anywhere.
But you know, it's the wise woman in the world has been made invisible. When you get to about 50, people don't look. People don't wolf whistle. Not that you ever wanted them to, anyway. But you know, you don't turn heads in the same way as you did before you get to 50. Lots of people, like I said earlier, when you're in that 50, it's like, well, I've got to get my figure back. I've got to remain on this side of the circle. You know, going this. Oh, it's all downhill now. You know, I'm over. I've got kids have grown up. You know, no one's going to employ me now. I'm old. I'm past my sell-by date. It's kind of feeling around this whole menopause place. I thought menstruation was taboo until I started to talk about menopause. Menopause is even worse because nobody's menopausal. Nobody's that old. And you know, it's like the compliment. Oh gosh, you look so young. And it's just like, oh gosh, thanks. I mean, I still like people telling me I look younger than 50, and I'm like, that's so not what I'm supposed to be about. I'm supposed to look 50. But it's the world needs wise women. The world needs us to enter our wise women phase of our cycle, because that's also when we are our greatest editors. We also do tell people what we think of them. You'll have most of your arguments in that space in your month. And it's good, you're clearing out stuff. You're not carrying it, you're not suppressing anything. You know, we all know that suppressing stuff can lead to illness, disease. So yeah, wise women is clearing it out. Now if you look at the world today and the mess that she's in, I think it's connected to the fact that wise women have been made invisible. So I really believe that there is a need for wise women to become visible, so that she is going to go and clear up the shit, because there is so much out there. She's not going to take the nonsense from patriarchy. She's not going to take the nonsense from anyone that is going to put her or the reason why she's here down. The reason why she's here is this forward momentum in life. So all of these need her, because she's going back, she's clearing out the cupboard, she's visiting the shadows, she's going, oh shit, that's ugly, get rid of that. And so that we can then move into our crone, which is our crown. That's our placing our crown on our head and being the elder and the elder that carries all this information through our lifetime. She remembers what it was like to be skipping along carefree and not having to worry about anything. She remembers the labor pain. She remembers the night. She remembers the feelings that we had when we were breastfeeding, when we were trying to birth a company, when we were doing all of that stuff and people were saying no, and you know, all of this. Crone remembers because that was her path, you know. And then Wise Woman, she really knows, you know, she remembers all of the heartache that the Wise Woman was going through to kind of make it all right, so that the elder woman can sit in her power and she can dream for the future generations. Now there's called the 13 grandmothers. They're in America. They've been called, I mean, it was a prophecy years and years and years ago, and they said that 13 grandmothers would meet. Now, and they would all come from all different tribes. Well, it actually happened, and so there are 13 grandmothers. I mean, you can look them up. They're just amazing grandmothers. And they literally come, their tribes aren't necessarily all friends, but they come, they sit in circle, and they put, you know, that they make future plans. They're changing the world together. So they're sitting in their wisdom. They're using all of this wisdom that they had to go forward and to make the world a better place. And so everything is about the future 7 generations. So, you know, that's in us. And we don't know it. Well, we're kind of getting to know it. So I'll pass this round. Hopefully it will help you. I mean, you could either add bits to it.
I got a question.
Yes.
Do you think every woman would be a wise woman one day?
Yes. If they live that long.
Every woman.
Every woman. But they won't necessarily know it. Like if you think about my mother, well, you don't know my mother, but I'll tell you, she has no clue that she's a wise woman or a crone. My mum has suppressed everything down. She's British. You know, all she thinks about is making her, I mean, bless her. But she loves looking younger. She puts her cream on, she does her hair. I mean, she looks stunning. She's about 85 and she looks probably about 65. But she doesn't know her power. So yeah, there's no way I would call her up and ask her for advice. Because she's constantly, well, what do you still got that nose ring in your nose for? This is silly. When are you going to grow up, you know? So there's nothing, she hasn't stepped into her wisdom. But I think that's the period that she grew up. If we look to our mothers or our grandmothers and we see what was going on for life around them, they are a product of that time. And thankfully they had us, and we are now in this time. And then if you think about our children, they're going to be a product of that time. So we're just kind of paving the way. So I believe there are wise women all over the world, but a lot of women don't know that they are. Because they're either suppressing it with HRT, they're trying to be younger, they're fighting the aging game. And the problem with the fighting the aging game is that you're going to lose, because we're all aging. So would it be better to just go, okay, how am I going to do this gracefully? How am I going to do this like a badass? Rather than join this game that I'm going to fail at. You know? So I think you also waste so much time, you know, and so much money. Anti-aging creams, all of the operations that you can have and the stuff you can do, and you know, and the amount of time you have to put on, you know, the face mask, and you have to sit there for 30 minutes. You know,
It's good relaxation.
It's great, but if you have to, you know, lovely. If it's trying to get something like, you know, I'm going to lose my wrinkles by doing this, and then you look in the mirror afterwards and you go, maybe I need to do it twice as long. It just seems like it's a waste of time, and it's clever because I think it's keeping the wise women away from their wisdom. All the time we're busy putting the creams, all the time we're busy sort of spending an extra hour down the gym, we're not busy clearing out everything so that we can move into our crone. So it's scary because I sometimes look in the mirror and I go, oh, should I go and get the grey covered? Nope, mustn't. It would look wrong with me sitting here
With a dyed head of
with
hair.
and my non-smiling face. We must age gracefully. I'm really hungry.
Yeah, my question would be actually, like, all of us here were in our mid 40s maximum, right? And I would be interested to know, like, if I think about my mother and if you all think about your mothers, perhaps, what if they listen to the same speech, and I'm sure you've had this, but perhaps not in Dubai because Dubai's age range is not really that age range, or if this discussion has been done to that age range, how do they react to this? You know, like, I'm not sure how if I would tell my mother all of this, she would take it seriously, you know, because it's so embedded in them that it's, you know, this is nonsense, or, you know, kind of that kind of thing. So I'm sure it's been done.
I think there is a lot of women that think it's nonsense. You know, it's like I remember saying to my mother-in-law, you know, what did you do for menopause or perimenopause? How did you? This was before I kind of knew what I wanted to do. And she's like, oh, you just pop a pill and you get on with it. Stiff upper lip. And it was just like, oh, you know, and I know for a fact that she took HRT, and I just feel like what we're trying to move out of is this separateness that our mothers and you know, not so much our grandmothers. I think our grandmothers were more in a community, especially like around war times. You know, wars tend to bring people together. So you know, I'm talking from my experience of living in England. So I mean, sorry, it's not covering other areas, but you know, you do have to factor in what's happening through the women's lives, and yeah, and just our mothers. This is quite, even though it's ancient, it's new. You know, I think my mother, I mean, I don't see my mother, so that's another story. But I think my whole family would think I was absolutely nuts for selling cloth pads. I mean, they knew I was nuts anyway, but I think they would just see this as like, she's completely gone off her rocker now. You know, she's out there promoting cloth pads. But I don't think they get it, but I think it's a process. And I feel like, yeah, there's only so much you can get. I mean, I think, Suzanne, you showed your mum the cycle.
She loves it.
My aunt loves your cloth pads.
Oh, did
So
she?
when I left Dubai, I moved back into my aunt's place, and my aunt is more like a mother to me. So, and she's mothering me every time I'm there, which also means I'm not getting to do my own washing, luckily, so she's doing it. And the first time she washed your cloth pads, she came like, what's these things I've been washing? What am I going to do with that? So I told her my aunt's in her late 70s, and she's like, oh, that's wonderful, so you don't need anything else anymore. We used to use them. And she loves them, so she, like, whenever she washes them, I can see she puts them on the table, and she like stretches them out, and then I told her where it came from, and she's probably the crone because she's far beyond her menopausal years. But then my mom, on the other hand, who's only a few years younger than my aunt, she would. I don't even try to talk to her because it just wouldn't make any sense. My mom got not sure how you call it in English. My mom got sterilized basically. I was a C-section. I got pulled out, and she got her
Tubes tied.
tubes tied. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I also don't. I'm not too sure if you still have your if you're still bleeding after that every month. I've never seen my mom.
I think is it called medically induced menopause?
Yeah, I think so.
I wouldn't know how you say it in English. Yeah, and I know that during her menopause she's been taking hormones, and yeah, so she's kind of so far disconnected. It really talking to her doesn't make sense. But then I've spoken to a close friend's mom, and she's in her 60s. And she has a yoga studio back in Germany, and I wanna run some workshops in her yoga studio. So I talked to her only last week and explained about it, and she's absolutely open and fascinated. She's like, "Oh my god, I need to learn more about this." In her 60s, so it can go either way.
But I do feel like for us, it's almost like a responsibility for us moving into our perimenopausal years, our menopausal, to start to be a role model for the future generations. Because I've been looking around for a role model. I can't find one really. I mean, there's a couple, but I feel like we're the trailblazers. We're the ones that are going, okay, the feminine is rising. There's a lot more information out there. We've got the internet, so we can, touch of a button, we can find out stuff that we couldn't do, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. So we're growing, we're expanding, and we can live for longer. So it's a time for the wise woman to really become visible, and I do think that once you've had the children, or once you've got the company set up, and you move into those wisdom years, those wise years of maybe from 50 to 65, it's not like time to sort of kick back and do your knitting. It's time to kind of get out there. You haven't got the kids kind of on your hip. You don't have to cook for everyone. You can tell your husband
Because you don't need his money anymore.
yeah, so
Because the kids are.
yeah,
Kids are
so you've got a good 15 years there of being amazing, and nobody's holding you back. When you're in the maiden, you've got that time, but you haven't got the wisdom. Then in the mothering time, you're busy doing everything for everyone, and you're in your prime, and you're imagine into wise woman. You haven't got all that anymore, and you're not bleeding anymore. So all of that energy that it takes to create an egg, say come and fertilize me, and then it come down and bleed, you're not doing that anymore. You're retaining your wisdom, so it's all staying inside. And I'm really excited.
Sorry, no, I have a question.
Yeah.
Because like hearing everyone's story, I just like to share that mine's a bit different.
Yeah.
So I would like to ask tips on getting in touch with the womb, because one of the reasons when I joined the course was I have normal periods all my life.
Okay.
I mean, I know I'm blessed in that sense, and I also been using this cloth pads for a long time, because I think the group I'm within, they always give you for Christmas presents, etc. No issues washing.
All your gay yoga friends.
Or like, I'm going to cup, so I have no issue with blood. My mom didn't take HRT. She let her hair, and I don't. But I mean, I'm pretty natural. I mean, of course, when you're in your 20s, so I'm 43 now. But I can't feel the wisdom, or, so how, is there any tips to get in? And I'm not, I don't have a baby, so is it like the factor that I've never
What do you mean by I can't feel the wisdom? You don't get period pain?
No, I mean, yeah, but then it's like, it's pretty platooned, like, like there's no significant mood shifts. It's pretty like la la la, period, no period. It's so. Do you have
do you find that you are different with the moon cycle?
I'm okay with full moon. I'm okay with new moon.
So you do take note.
Yeah, I do.
Does it change you at all?
Not really. That's why I mean, it's just that because you work with a lot of women, are there any women who actually just go la, like
I think awesome. You're getting pretty much stable.
Yeah.
But then winter and pretty much in a couple of days you're
Summer.
getting summer.
Not really
of
summer.
energy.
It's like I will notice the energy shifts, but it's not like I don't have that mood swings or and there's no. So then I'm thinking, is it because I mean, it's just a question. Like, is it because the womb's not used before, or I don't know.
I don't think it's got anything to do with your womb not producing, because I'm sure your womb's produced huge amounts. I don't know what you do or who you are, but there's no way a womb is not going to do anything.
Okay.
Because it's your connection to your wisdom, to the ancestors. It's been passed down. I believe that maybe your kind of plateau of experience with your blood is possibly a bit like you.
Like neutral.
You're kind of quite, I don't know, like
Yeah.
you come across as quite a kind of a calm person.
I just flow with it.
There you go. So you're kind of on the way there anyway. I mean, I don't get quite so much as I used to.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm becoming a little bit more. I mean, it does do. But I feel like it's to do with who you are and how you are. And I think if you want to get in touch with you more, then I just feel that maybe, you know, you recognize when you're in your head space, and then you recognize when you're in your heart space, and then you sink into your womb space. And she's gonna whisper. She's not gonna shout.
Okay.
You know, so it's going to be taking time to not meditate, because meditating, I sometimes feel like we're trying to say, I'm not thinking. Oh fuck, I'm thinking. No, I'm not.
And Pee-wee's, you know, she's clarified that pretty clearly for our. I'm sure everybody's.
Yeah. So I feel like it's sitting down here and asking yourself questions. You can be like, okay, I'm going to be really clear. What is it I need, or what decision do I need to make around this person or whatever, and you sit with it. Or you can do dream work. So before you go to sleep at night, write the question. Be really clear. Don't kind of have it like a really long question. What if, and then what happens, and then do, because you get confused. Kind of simple. And then sleep on it and see what you've dreamt about. And when you start to do that, I really believe that our intuition goes, oh, she's listening. I can talk to her, because I've been trying to talk to her for years. I've just given up. Yeah, does it make sense? So it's like a muscle.
Okay.
It's like trying to move your little toe.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I'll just add in, but you know what? The revelation for me, especially coming from yoga, like Hatha yoga, Hatha yoga is, you know, initially you have to learn quite a lot of stuff, right? You've got to learn about the breath, how to, you know, access the breath, and there's technique, and then there's asana, and you've got to learn like alignment. You've got to learn how to align your body so the energy can run through you, because the basic doesn't work properly. You know, you need to learn quite a lot of stuff, right, in order to access yoga, right, in pranayama, asana, all the limbs, right? But then, you know, so coming from that background, if you apply that same concept into like listening to your womb space, then it kind of throws you off the scent, because actually it's not technique driven whatsoever. It's time driven. So you know, that reflection is, you know, any time spent talking about it is change. So all the time you spend communicating, sharing the circle, that in itself will change everything. So you don't have to fix any problems. You just share it, and that in itself starts the clearance. And then the charting, you know, like this is happening. You know, maybe it's not shades of like, maybe it's not the rainbow. You know, maybe it's not like, you know, I wanted to kill my kids today, or put in my thing, or maybe it's you know, my boss was a wanker today, or you know, whatever it is. It's just like, but just it's like follow the subtle, because it's like you're looking for subtle in your case, you're not looking for mad, which is probably more like me, mad. It's like just that simple observation, writing it down, and it's like you know, that investment of time in reflection and observation is all. It's not a technique, you know. It's just and when it comes to, if you're going to add any kind of physicality to it, it's like definitely not rocket science. You know, it's like, you know, so, you know, Uma will say, you know, basically, you know, this is like the course. You know, I shouldn't say that, but you know, it's like, you know, that's the course. You know. And that's the end of the technique, you know. She does it, obviously there's more to it than that, but you know, it's not, it's just all the time you put into self-reflection and right swadhyaya. That's it. This is all it is. And it's like just a little bit more time and.
I mean, I think it's also really important to reclaim that connection through ritual. And so ritual for me is literally something that I do that helps me connect with myself. So whether it's that I put on my favorite kimono and then I pour myself a cup of tea in my favorite cup, and then I pull my tarot cards or something, and I like 10 minutes and there's no phone, there's nobody, nobody comes in, is it locked? And that's my ritual. And then in that time I can then sort of sit there and I'm like, okay, is there something I need to know, or is there something I need to think about today? Is there something I need to deal with? So it's, or you could have a ritual where you put all the petals in the bath and put all the candles around, and just be in the bath, because being in water is so wonderful. Putting moisturizer on your skin. I remember saying to one woman, because she was like, she was going through a lot of pressure at work, and so I said, okay, and people were like, a really close friend of hers really flipped and she was really nasty. So I said, well, how about using some moisturizer? Go out and buy some really lovely smelling moisturizer, and in the morning as you're putting your moisturizer on, I said, think of it as a second skin, and then you're like, and I'm going to be looking after myself, I love myself, this kind of thing. And then when this woman at work says something, I said, just smell your arm. And it kind of came out in a bit of a joke. It wasn't me kind of being, wise, you must put moisturizer. But she actually came back, she was like, I tried the moisturizer, she works. She said, I was there. She said, I kept smelling myself. She said, but it was so wonderful. She said, because it was such a beautiful smell. She said, but now, she said, I almost don't even need to do the whole moisturizer. I just got a little tub. So it's just that connection. Find that something.
I don't mean to be rude, but it's like having a vagina monologue. Like the.
Nothing
It's like that theater show, like vagina monologues.
Yeah, definitely. So can I offer everyone a pad? Who has a heavy cycle? Who has a light cycle?
I have light.
You have a light. So there's light. There's a light. If you'd like to come and select a light one. And then you've got.
Is it anything about medium?
Give them a pad each.
Who has heavy?
Who has the
medium? These are heavy. Heavy.
Is that medium?
Heavy. Well, I haven't put any real light ones out, so these are moderates. Yeah. So that's
Suddenly I love green
that
color.
one, or that one. That's definitely a moderate.
This is gonna go
These
into
ones
my
are heavy.
pussy.
Men had periods, the world will stop.
Thank
Every
you.
new moon, everyone will be on
Thank
vacation.
you, Willow.
So what you can do is when you're out and about,
We wouldn't have a week.
Thank you for this.
the label goes towards your underwear. The pad obviously comes towards your yoni. So this, they're too heavy. Yes.
You need to be there.
So
one, but I want to offer one.
why don't you keep one for when, if you have any porliness, then you wet it, you put it in the freezer, and then you pop it on.
Yeah, I used mine for this. After birth.
Where can buy it?
Online. I'll give you the
Okay.
And then for the soreness after.
So you don't have like the actual shop that's just gonna walk in. And
You
just
can if you're in Dubai.
Oh yeah.
Come to my house and then you can
Okay.
just they're in in baskets
Alright.
and you can pick, or you can be on
Thank you.
So carrying it around in your handbag. Yeah, we've all done it when we're out and about, and you kind of go and you kind of get a piece of tissue, roll it up because you haven't got something with you. Not very clean. So keep the clean part to inside. So fold it inside like that, and then you pop it.
I've got one in my glove box, permanent.
So there you go. So you're just carrying it, okay? The heavier the pad, it's a little bit more of an effort to go in.
They're really fun to
So
use.
what do we do?
I wash it out and I pop.
Right,
and I put it in
we'll
the
do
washing
it slowly because Joe just said that she's too technical. Right. Label down, fold it in, fold it in,
It's
and then just
like I
There you
have
go.
like 6
Okay.
of them,
And
and
then
then
washing
I just
it.
you just
washing it. Okay.
So that blood comes out.
So your
inside
blood's
the
on the
washing
pad. What you can do, and what I did this
actually
morning,
no, it doesn't move.
was literally I went in the shower with it, put it on the bottom of the shower, and then just stood on it whilst I was showering. Helps save water. You can pick it up, you can wring it out because there's nothing in there that's going to break. And yeah, so then you can get your bar of soap, and you can do it with your knuckles are great because get your in there like this. If it's very fresh blood and quite a lot of it, it clears really quickly.
Cold water, right?
Yeah,
It can be warm water.
It doesn't matter.
But yeah,
It's easier with colder.
What I do is I take a big bowl and put it in the sink, and then I wash it so that the blood actually goes into the bowl, and then I use that water. I don't use soap, only water, and then I use that water for my plants. I've never had plants growing this fast. They love it.
But you use soap afterwards.
Yeah.
I use baking soda.
After you rinse it out.
Yeah,
Rinse it out
yeah.
first.
So washing it, all the blood
You weren't listening when I told you how to wash them.
We use lemon and baking soda.
And then the clear.
You just
Then,
soak it
then
with baking soda.
returning it to the
Yeah.
ecosystem, giving it to
That is closing the loop. If you know,
Actually, I use
like
baking
the idea of
soda
closing
yes,
the loop and
because I've got a lot
Yeah.
baking
Yes.
soda and then
It's really
lemon.
important.
Oh, yeah?
Baking soda helps if it's like like sometimes you want it not so stained. So I use baking soda.
There's a wonderful bar of soap. I mean, for vegans, it's not so good, is it?
Yes.
It's called Ghoul Soap from Organics, and it's just the best. It gets out any stain, but obviously it's made out of ghoul. So if you're a vegan, it's not good. But if you're just a vegetarian or pescatarian, then yeah, get that. I mean, I've got pads years old, and there's no stains. Don't boil them because it cooks the blood. There's no need to do that. You can put them in the washing machine. I mean, best not to kind of have it filled with blood and put it in the washing machine.
Rinse it off. That's what I do.
Rinse it off.
first.
If you rinse off with just the water, and then you can return that water in ritual to the earth. And I had heard this woman say that when we return our blood to the earth, we are balancing out all of the blood loss through war. So we're gifting the blood,
Wow, that's beautiful.
isn't it?
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So it's just that whole act of literally just taking your blood outside, or even if you're indoors in a flat, the plants.
But
they
then
love
you-
it. Huh?
If you're watering plants, you have to dilute it.
You do, yeah. You can't give it thick,
yeah.
thick blobs
So
of
don't
blood.
take a menstrual cup and tip that into
You
a
don't
potted
dip
plant.
them.
No.
No.
Yeah,
You
you
put a
have to.
menstrual cup, you can, because that's undiluted, that you can dig a hole, here, in
Like a
Bali,
plate,
and put that straight
Like
back
the
into the
animal
plant,
garden.
but not into because people have done that. You've just in a potted plant tipped a cup into that. You
Ew.
can't do that.
So there's like blobs.
Yeah, you can't do that.
No,
So
I
you
don't
need
think
you
the
need
Next
to
time
wash
my
it
hands
down.
descend on it.
Snakes like that.
Yeah.
So it's start ritual.
Huh?
The snakes would come in buffet
We can't wash it
In,
at which
uh,
temperature?
in Bali.
Any temperature you want, but you don't have to boil them. If you boil them, the blood is likely to set and stay.
What about ironing?
Ironing, I iron mine. Some people think I'm really sad, but I just love having them looking.
Maybe in the DNA.
It must be in the
British.
DNA,
Must be in
yes.
the British DNA.
Yeah.
Because even baby stuff you iron.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah. Inside, the material I import from Canada because it was the only material that was quickly absorbent and it didn't leave you damp. Now, I tried, when I first started making them, I thought I could just kind of use towels and bits, They were soft, like I used that microfiber flannel. I folded that up and I was like, oh, this is really soft. But it was useless because as soon as I sat down, it was like squelch. So it was a case of like, for about a year, I tried lots of different fabrics, and then this was the only fabric that I found that came with all the ticks on the boxes. It's not some of the cloth inside, because there's quite a few different pieces of cloth. Most of the cloth inside is organic, so the top parts. There's a PUL, which is like a poly something. So it's like a plastic, but it's with organic cloth woven into it.
Yeah, because I was asking you because I read
If
about
they leak, they leak.
So,
And
yeah,
they said it,
yeah.
So,
So
it
that
has some kind of
leak
Really
yeah.
need to care.
Now I was like, do I put the pull in? Do I not? And it was like, actually, women need to know that it's not going to leak, and I feel like that's really important for us. So I don't think the planet's going to mind that little bit of pull that's in there, and also it's reusable. So it's not like we're throwing it out. And then obviously the only other bit of plastic is the popper, but I found metal ones didn't work so well, and buttons were too fiddly. And you don't want to keep zips or Velcro down there. It's not right.
Stress consciousness starting very early age. So start them young.
Flower
Try and get a decent. You're going to be a good husband.
Oh yeah.
Teething on the pad.
very good husband.
So, and is there anything you'd like to share about women, like who have, sort of gone from, like your people coming to you, what's happened, to what's happened to women with the process, like.
Well, there was one woman, bless her, recently. She came to my workshops. I do a workshop called Reclaim Reason and Ritual, and I kind of offer it as much as I can, and I do it with the moon. And she came along, and bless her, I'd never met her. I hadn't even spoken to her prior. She kind of rocked up, and she still is. She's Irish, so kind of, I don't know if you get the Irish, and she was very much like, she would probably be drinking pints. She came in like her high heels and a pencil skirt, and so I think she'd just kind of come in from the office, and she kind of walked into my lounge, which I had decorated fully in red, and her candles burning and goddesses and whatnots, and she kind of like,
the witch came.
yeah, it's like a womb. You walk in the witch's womb. And she kind of like poked her head in through the curtains, and she's like, I think I'm at the right place. Anyway, she sat down, did the course. Bless her, she kept coming back. She did lots of crying, lots of stuff going on. Her problem was that every month she would get great big red welts all over her arms, and the doctors had said they'd given her pills, they'd given her everything. She'd tried absolutely everything. She also got a lot of pain, and she was a pain to live with. She said that her husband had pretty much said, you've got to do something about it, because you're just impossible. She said, so I just thought, well, I'll try something alternative. She said, and somebody mentioned you. She said, so that's why I'm here. She said, and I'm like sitting there thinking, oh my God, she's really got a serious condition. Let's see. Well, the good thing is that after the course, she came back, I think, to one of my circles. I think it was probably a month, 2 months later. And she's like, I need to know, did you give me something? And I was like, what do you mean did I get? She said, did you give me some potion? And I was like, no, I didn't. She said, no, but you have to have done. She said, because my husband, I don't get the welts. Look, she said, I haven't got the welts. She said, and my husband can't believe it. She said, he's like, that woman you went to see, she must be a witch. He said, you've completely changed. He said, he said, our marriage was ready to break. He said, and suddenly he's got his wife back. And she's like, what did you do to me? And it's, you did it. You came to the circle, you sat in circle, you connected with yourself, you started to answer some questions. And I said, I just was there, holding the space. And so, bless her, she's like devoted. I mean, anything that I call, she's there. What can I do to help? And she's going to every activity in Dubai that is anything to do with spirituality now. She's gone from this beer drinking Irish woman that was down at the Irish pub and screaming at her husband to this, that she's left her job. She's like, okay, she's something in this. She said, this has to be my life now. She said, I can't go back. So, that's one. I mean, not so extreme. People have said that they don't get any pain anymore. One major thing with the pads was that irritation. The irritation that women were getting what we think is that because the pads are so absorbent from the shops and they're so filled with chemicals and they're plastic, by the end of your period, you've been wearing this pad, then you're itching, you know, and then it can go on, because once you start to scratch, you itch, and then it's continuous. So what we find is that once you move into this, if you do have irritation problem, what I do suggest, because I used to have an irritation problem, was just use coconut oil. Put some coconut oil on, use your pad, and it will be gone. I promise you. I mean, it really is. I mean, I was really quite bad because I had years and years and years of having a good old scratch. But yeah, so that's the pads, and the Reclaim, Reason and Ritual. I think it just it opens you up to stuff that you already know. It's like Joe said, it's not rocket science. It's something that we can all do, and we get to practice every month. And then it starts to filter into our lives. It starts to filter into the way that we exercise, into the way that we make our choices, into the way that we dress, into the way that we eat, into the way that we look after the earth. And it just filters out, you know. You start on this just, I mean, like, you know, it's almost like a bridge. It's our bridge back to ourselves. And that's why they're called rose pads as well, because it's the past tense of rise. So it's the feminine rise. It's our, we've risen. So it's our rose. You didn't know?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why aren't they white? Why are they colored?
They're coloured because they're lovely, and because the white, I think, shows up your blood, and the white is there to almost shame us to keep changing our pad. And I think that when we have the colourful ones, it's playful, it's fun. We can almost match it with our outfits.
I sometimes match them to my panties.
There you go.
So how many you
And
have?
My panty color. Why not?
Yeah, why should
7
that
days,
have
like-
an accessory?
Excited.
I just really, what I really
Yeah, I
want
have
is
like
to
6
get,
from you.
you know, my
like
this
6.
would be a really good achievement. I want Huda from Huda Beauty, who's my husband's main client, to do your course and then do a documentary
Yes.
and see. I don't know. Let's say, I mean, like someone like that who's, you know, who is just, you know, how do they reconcile the two things? How do they reconcile like, high-end beauty and that being their whole life, and with, you know, could you coexist in the two planets?
Well, it's interesting because a girl that my son used to go out with is now a Playboy model. And so I sent her a message, and I said, she's posting this stuff, you know, she's gorgeous.
We got it.
Yeah. And so, and she's posting stuff about plastics and stuff, and I was like, oh, she's interested in saving the planet, so I thought I'd get in there. So, you know, she's got millions on her Instagram, obviously, because she looks so gorgeous. So I sent her a message and I said, would you be interested? I said, if I send you some pads? And she said, yes. So I'm going to send her pads when I get back, but then we'll see. Because is it going to be too much for her to go from the space that she's in with her followers? Is she going to scare some of her followers away? That's the space. Because when I've tried to kind of say, pass these on, can you know, what are they called when they're in Instagram, the
Influencers.
Yeah, it's like trying to get the influencers to show them and to talk about them. It's getting away from that taboo. It's still there. It's
It's
still
like,
there.
you know, so maybe not everyone wants to, like, you know, chuck away the makeup and stop shaving their armpits. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, can we? Can
Well, I
you
think
can you have both? You know.
I think you can shave your armpits, and I think you can wear makeup, and I think you can do all of that, you know. And but it's got to be your choice, you know.
That's the thing, because that's what I don't want to sort of say. You know, like, okay, I'm trying to come in and sort of somehow get a group of women and sort of, you know, say that, you know, everyone has to, like, you know, go out and, you know, sort of do kind of naked bonfire stuff and like just burn their bra and never wear any makeup and never go to the gym and never, you know, never wear high heels and, you know, all that stuff and like, you know, and let's, you know, put their blood in the trees and Halas,
I think, I think,
that's the problem.
I think what people don't realize is not to stop compartmentalizing themselves to fit in a certain genre of person, but to just be themselves and be the one that wears makeup and high heels and wears
I
a
mean,
pad
you can
like
do
that.
it. You can do
I mean, why do you have to
both. You
fit
can do.
in a?
It's just I'm saying it not
In
from
a
like
mold.
I'm more saying it not from like it's kind of like you know that's just like a
But
thought.
that's
You
not-
know,
yeah,
it's
you're
not
right.
like
Yeah.
Yeah,
When I was just
just
the
be
other
yourself.
day, I was with my friends in a club in Dubai. I mean, dancing, right? Okay. High heels, makeup. Oh, okay. Only just the two of us girls. And then I meet somebody that I met at the yoga festival, the woman coming out. You're going to this yoga teacher and you are dancing and you are wearing high heels. That's it. What's wrong with it? Like, does it exclude it? I don't know. I said, oh, I think that you can exactly like.
I think you can do it all. You can do it as long as you're doing it for you and not for somebody else.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
when if I'm knowing I'm going swimming, yeah, I've got to give myself a break. I'm not going to be having these great around my bikini as I'm walking down the beach. But then it's like, gosh, am I a feminist doing this? Would my teachers in my master's degree, what would they think? But I'm not going to discuss it with them. I don't want to be this. So I'll give it a wax. And it's been great not wearing a bra since I've been in Bali, but I know the bra's in my bag to go home tonight because I know walking through Dubai I'm going to be putting my bra back on.
with the AC.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with everyone.
So is anyone else? We're finished up now, but has anyone else got anything they'd like to say or share or ask or?
Yeah, I wanted just to tell you that actually I told you I read about the product before. I didn't know that I would even need to. Anyway, this whole thing is a whole new experience for me. Actually, the sharing and the group and even the idea. I love the way that you made them. They're so pretty and like usually, for example, like if I'm on a public place and I have a pad in my always whatever. Have it in my bag, I always the shame that trying to hide it, and I swear with this one you can just walk down and, that's one
They're
thing.
beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's really. And the other thing for people that are not informed, I mean I don't know if you have it on your website or you just have just if you can inform that that they are not looking. I mean to this concern that I was. So I just clicked. I saw. I'm not going to change. I mean, so that more people get to actually understand that
So
they are.
how did you click on me?
I don't even remember on Facebook maybe. Of course, I'm all part of this yoga, vegan, health, wellness. So somebody was mentioning. I didn't know that there is a class like some kind of protection. I'm not going to.
Which one did you take then?
The
With moderate one.
small, no, small.
Yeah, no. So that's a light. So that's a light flow.
Okay.
Is that the light?
I'm not sure if it's light. I mean, actually, it's between light and moderate.
Okay.
I'm
Because
just
if this
attracted
one,
to this
if
color.
okay. So it's just don't. I mean, if it's not the right pad, then get in contact because you can. That will be the right pad maybe for your third day.
Okay.
Or if your flow is light, then it might be okay for your first day. I mean, some women are.
They want. So you should have like different.
Yeah.
I have different ones. I have a
yeah,
heavy, I
that
have a
makes
light.
sense. Yeah.
And then so depending on where you are in your cycle, you would use that.
And Umas always says, don't make a toxic biohazard.
I just want to share something because we've been learning about Tara Goddess today. 2 weeks ago, my pregnant girls clan just sent me a message. Awesome, can you just looking for the cotton pad somewhere in Thailand for me? Like, I don't know if I can get that for you, but I will do my best. And just like in the morning we're talking about that the guiding star goddess, and suddenly that we come to this one, the path, and just easy to just make it online, or just go to Dubai and get it. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for like teaching that thank you for Tara goddess. I forgot.
Any other
most unexpected way.
Yes, that's true. That's so
I have
true.
just one technical question. Like, do you change it as normal pads, or
Yeah,
they can stay
it's
longer,
actually,
or-
it's, you would think that because it's not what you're used to, that it won't last as long as the one you're using. It actually does last just as long.
And
I use
I have to say, even though I've been doing the work, I haven't used one yet. I'm like moon cup girl. So
I kind of enjoy the cups.
yeah.
Well, it's,
I'm old school. I'm not into those cups.
environmentally friendly. So what I will, I will.
Sorry,
try
just one more question
I do
related
a
to
combination
the moon cup.
combo.
So the moon cup, people are saying that already there's a flow inside of you, and they're not actually blocking the flow.
But you can't feel it with the moon cup.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah,
feel
is there a difference between getting it flown out of your body, like the flow
but you
out?
can't feel it. So I think it's the feeling your blood and listening to that feeling.
This
So
is
the,
my next step.
yeah, so the cup will allow you to carry on. You can just do it all. Whereas the blood is telling you, actually, no. Because you need that time to rest and to recoup, to let go, because there's that letting go, there's a death, and then there's a rebirth as you then step into your maiden. If you carry on with your cup, then you can just be maiden all the way through your crown.
Yes, this is kind of, this is like, this is, I've got, this is my, Instagram material basically. I'll try.
Yeah. So the blood is really there to slow you down, so that you can really step into maiden and to mother. You'll have the energy as you go through the
Moon
cycle.
cup, the eco tampon. It's
Yeah,
like the
yeah. I
eco-
mean, the moon
eco
cup is
tampon.
great. So, like, if you're going swimming, if you're traveling or whatever, So it's great, but it does stop you feeling it. And it also can be quite difficult to get it in.
I basically transitioned with the moon cap through the pads, and then the first time I bled using one of these very thick pads, I was like, oh my god, this is a total revelation. It's like you put a pillow there and you just put it to rest, and it does feel amazing. It's also like it remembers you that you're actually bleeding. It's like, slow down. Like, you don't have to go anywhere today. You don't have to do anything that you can't do tomorrow.
I think the biggest difference of if I think, because I'll be honest, I tried moon cup, and now I'm using something called the soft cup, which I'm not sure you know. It's like this plastic thing with a plastic bottom, similar, but you just pop it on the pubic bone, so it's more comfortable. But if I think back on the days where I was still using a pad before the tampon days, it was always like, it wasn't like slow down. It was like, oh, you feel it, you feel it, but you have to do the same. You have to
but these
perform the
pads
same. You have to have this, you have to go to school. You have to do the exam.
Maybe
You have
I
to,
have like, and also I think like the only time I only used pads for my very first period, the 11-day hell one. So there's probably.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be that.
Then I was like tampon, second period tampon. So.
But this whole thing of you have to do it. Who says?
no, not now.
Yeah.
But when we were like, I used pads like until I was 20 something. I guess in that period, and nobody told me that you should be slowing down in this period, and it's okay to be slower and all of that, because we were asked to perform and we were asked to be the same as everybody
I think
else. So
it goes
that's
together.
that was
It's like,
that's the big difference between the
Yeah.
two situations.
Because you can also, it's like if you know when you're going to be maiden, then have your to-do list ready to do in the maiden, because you're going to have lots of energy there. Maybe you do it in the mother, because then you're going to be making less mistakes, because in maiden we do mess up a little bit because we're so eager. Just don't do a to-do list in Wise Woman, and don't do it in Crone. So organize what things you can do in your life. If at work it's time to do editing, or you're going to proofread, do that in Wise Woman, because she'll find every mistake.
And Wild Power is really good for like more practical stuff. How to you know, in reality, how to this all this kind of stuff. So, how many of you have read some of Wow Power now? The thing you
So
sent.
what first paragraph?
Well, how many of you read the whole of Wow Power? Okay, we'll see. Good sexual reading.
I'm not raising my hand at all.
I can't remember. I'm reading it at the moment.
There's Women Code, which is also really famous.
What's that?
Women Code.
And if you're in Dubai and you want to connect, then I haven't got my cards with me because they're packed. I just went to check. But I'm womenspace.co because .com was gone. And yeah, I'm sure you can give my
I was.
and so I'm offering workshops, and we have circles. Circles are just about sharing and creating a community, creating sisterhood, remembering and reclaiming all that stuff. The Reclaim, Reason and Ritual is more about the cycle. And then do one-on-ones, and I'm sure there's other stuff. I do a moon school, so I do a moon school for the young girls that are entering into their first blood.
Hopefully you'll get to hear a bit more
I did offer an autumn leaves workshop, and one person came other than myself because that's menopause.
No one wants to
nobody's menopause.
Nobody's in menopause.
I'm interested in menopause.
So there's stuff going on. Also did Blessing Way for Suzanne, so I'll be doing more rites of passage in that space. So so please be in contact. And also if you just want to kind of volunteer and be a helper or anything like that, I need as much help as I can get because we're dealing with a pretty huge anything, because I can't do it all. And a shaman here told me that I must reach out to my sisters. So I'm just doing as I'm told, because it's huge.
Welcome,
and I really
Sister
Yogi. But I really see that when women connect down to here, then they're going to grow out.
I just have something to say about that we've been fed wrong information that we can do everything ourselves. It's completely false, untrue. Don't go down that road. There's a lot of suffering there. That's all. Ask for help.
True.
And the more we ask for help, then the more others will ask us for help, and it'll just it'll break
Especially
that
new mom.
crazy idea that we can't, that we've got to do it alone.
Yeah, and you know we want this to be part of the course because you know in some ways recently, you know, Hatha Yoga, mainstream asana classes, it can be part of the problem, not the solution.
Exactly.
Exactly. But it's okay. We can sort it out, right? You know, we
just have to modify how you're thinking. It's not what you're doing. Modify.
Don't throw
Change
away.
how you're thinking.
We're not gonna. We don't throw away yoga. Okay, so
Yes. I didn't open the circle, did I?
close it.
Well, I didn't open it.
No, you didn't.
Open it.
No, you didn't.
How does that work?
Well, no, because usually at the beginning I'd open the circle and I would call in the directions and I would set our intention, but obviously that didn't happen.
Well, we did that in the start of the day.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
And
the
did you call
very
the
first thing.
directions?
We didn't call the directions.
This morning.
I called the masters.
Neither of us know quite now. I know.
I called all the masters to help
But you
us
did that this morning.
guide. In the
Okay,
very
so
first thing
let's-
we did in the start of the
Let's
day.
open them. So if we hold our hands here, we're going to scoot down, have our left thumb up and the other hand down. Got me?
Right, the left thumb up.
Left thumb up.
Left
Press
thumb up.
left. No, that's right.
left up.
Your left palm facing up, your right palm facing down.
It's the same.
That is.
Like
I heard that, but that means I need to know what left and right is.
She needs to know how left.
You're good, you're good.
Right, so if you close your eyes, take an inhale and an exhale. Thank you for gathering today in this circle of women, sharing our stories, sharing stories of our first blood, I believe. Sharing stories of our bleeding and how we are with our blood, receiving a pad and having the courage to try it out. For being here in Bali, in the motherland, for being here with each other, opening and growing into our women's space. We thank the ancestors. We thank the future generations. We thank spirit. We thank energy. We thank love. We thank Mother, Father, God above and below and all around us. We thank the masters. We thank our guides and our guardians. We thank the earth from the north. We thank the water from the west. We thank the fire from the south and the air from the east. May this circle be open but never broken. And may the love that we share, the sisterhood that we share, go with us throughout this day and throughout the next week and throughout our lives moving forward. Merry meet, merry part, merry meet again. Blessed be, and clap. There you go. You're free to go.
All right.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you for coming, Vanessa.